Now, many of us, we have studied the parable, and for years we have been taught it at the various churches that we have belonged to in the past. But however, we want to get a much deeper understanding based on the truth. So the truth is the key to us understanding the parable. It is the key, Khan. So what I want you to do is this. I want you to have your mind completely erased of all what you have been taught about the parable. Erase that now. Now we're going to look at the parable of the prodigal with fresh eyes. From a not a new perspective, because it's not new, it's always been there. It's just that the scripture says our eyes have been blinded. Right? So now let's just open up, if you please. Go to the book of Luke chapter 1 and 1. Let's just go there to read first and foremost. The book of Luke chapter 1, let's begin at verse 1.
In the book of Luke chapter 1 and verse 1. For as much as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most surely believed among us.
See, so there's things that we have believed among us. We believed them because we had no choice, because those who were our pastors, leaders, bishops, they taught us much of the scriptures. And incidentally, let me be fair. Many of them were only leading from what they understood. So we can't necessarily put a big X on them, because you can't teach what you don't know. You've got to know something to teach it. So I'm not saying this to bring any deference or indifference, I suppose is a better word, on the people that once taught us, because they did it from the best knowledge that they had at that time.
That's right.
But then when we read on verse 2, it says, read.
Verse 2. Even as they delivered them unto us.
Read.
Which from the beginning.
Which what?
Which from the beginning.
Read.
Were eyewitnesses.
Read.
And ministers of the word.
And they were servants of the word. They served in the word. Though they knew this from the beginning. Read on.
It seemed good to me also.
See? So what we received when we began seemed good to us. And, none of us in here can turn around and say, well, it didn't feel good. No, you knew it was good because you were sitting in that church saying, amen.
Yes.
So here it seemed good to us at the time. But read on.
Having had perfect understanding of all things.
Read.
From the very first.
Read.
To write unto thee in order, most excellent Theophilus.
Now, when we see that now, it's letting us know that the understanding we had back in the beginning, it says here that it was a perfect understanding. And it was a perfect understanding because we were engaged in the purity of the truth. We're going back to the time of Yahushua when he walked, because he brought the truth. He said, I am the word. I am the truth, the way, and the life. So we got it. And then it says, in order for the most Theophilus, the word Theophilus means, the word Theo means God, of course, and Philosophus means love. So it's the lover of God. That's hence where we get the word Philosophia, which we get the word philosophy from, means the lover of wisdom. Sophia, wisdom. And that's where you get people choosing the name Sophia as a girl's name. You got that? So Philosophia, where we get the word philosophy, and now we have Theophilus, which means the lover of God. Khan? Now let's begin by going to same book. Let's go to chapter 15. And you do know as well that Luke is the author of many scholars are in agreement that Luke is the author of the book of Acts.
I didn't get the time.
It's the parable of the prodigal. So let's begin at verse 15, if you please. Verse verse 11. Come.
15:11.
15:11.
The book of Luke, chapter 15 and verse 11. And he said, a certain man had 2 sons.
Now, it says a certain man had 2 sons. Now, we have to view this parenthetically. We have to look at it from heaven's point of view. So, a certain man has 2 sons. It's speaking about Yahweh having 2 sons, so to speak. Yahushua is breaking this down in a parable so that the people of God will know this, which is the chosen, will understand this, and not the other people or the other nations. That's why the other nations still only read this as a parable. So read it again, sir, and then go forward to verse 12.
Luke chapter 15, verse 11. And he said, a certain man had 2 sons.
2 kinds of Israelites. Go on.
And the younger of them said to his father.
So the younger of them said to his father, go on.
Father, give me the portion of goods.
Stop. So here it's dealing with 2 kinds of Israelites. One who grew up in the truth and never left it. Remember, 2 brothers. One wanted his portion, the other didn't. He stayed with his father. Gone? And so we see here that the younger of the 2 chose to take his possessions. But read on, sir. Read 12 again, go through to the end of it.
And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living.
So by law and by rights, the sons have a right to the father's portion because they are his children. That's why when a father, back in those days, when a man married a woman and had children, he might have married a woman that he eventually despised her. He didn't like her. But she bare him a son. That son is in first position. That means whether he loved the wife anymore or not, the fact is that son, who is his son, is in first position. So that son is entitled to double. Gone? Now, let's say he marries another woman. She produces a son. But he loves her more. Therefore, his love for her is shown also by the love that he has for the son or the children. But he cannot negate the first wife's children because the law is that he is your firstborn. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Because I want you to get this, because if you don't understand this, you won't understand our laws and why we do what we do as a nation. So now we understand that he could turn around and disown his son if that son was disobedient. But we'll see this later. But then when we read verse 13,
and not many days after.
And not many days. Now, when we read the word not many days, it does not mean not many days as to how you have understood it. Do you understand that? Because not many days here, underline the word not many days in your scriptures, please. Because it could mean months, weeks, years. Now, when we go back just for a moment and we look at the younger son who decided to take his portion and leave, he becomes and falls into the category of what we now know today as Israelite foreigners. Make a note of that, please, because you will forget this and you will ask me, so make a note of it. Now, when we deal with the Israelite foreigners, we're dealing with people who primarily deal with the things of this world. But when we look at this book now, we begin to understand it. Let's read verse 13 again, if you don't mind.
Luke chapter 15, verse 13. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey.
Now, He gathered all together. That means he took everything that the Father divided unto him. Now, what did the Father divide unto him? In our perspective of this, the Father gave to his Son the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. That was the portion that he gave to him. The laws, the statutes, and commandments. That's his inheritance. Also, what comes under that portion as well? Land. What comes under that portion as well? Protection. What comes under that portion as well? Blessings. So all of those things was given to him to take, because he still had land at the Father's home. See? So he could always come back and proclaim the land if he wishes. But he got blessings from the Father. You see? So the Father gave him all of the things. Now remember, we're looking at this thing parenthetically. So we see it from a heavenly standpoint as well as from an earthly standpoint. Go on? So now, he finish reading what you were just reading, sir.
And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country.
Into a far country. Now, the far country that we're dealing with here would, in the spirit realm, would be moving away from the earth into, or moving away from the heavenlies into the earth realm. A far country. Now, let's pull some precepts. Let's go, if you please, to Matthew chapter 25 and 14. To give you some kind of proof bearing. We use the word precepts or witness. So let's get a witness to this. So, what did I say?
14.
Matthew 25 and 14. Yeah, let's go there.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 25 and verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country.
Read that again.
For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country.
Into a far country. So you see, it's telling you clearly here, without any reservations, that it's like a man traveling into a far country. Name it and read it again.
The book of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country.
Read.
Who called his own servants.
Called what?
Who called his own servants.
Read.
And delivered unto them his goods.
His goods. See? So, read on.
And unto one he gave 5 talents.
Read.
To another 2. And to another 1. To every man according to his several ability. And straightway took his journey.
So this is showing, this is a type of the Yahushai making the rules, setting down some laws, and then going back into the heavenlies and a far off country. So no one can get him, no one can send letters to him, because the only time you get him is when he comes back.
That's right.
But he leaves you with all of these talents and gifts. And he said, I want you to develop it. I want you to take the gifts that I've given to you and make them more.
That's right.
Some he gave half. Some he gave 1. Some he gave 5. Now, some of you will think that because you got 5, you're better than me. No. He gave you 5 because you're not as good as the one who I gave half to. The one that I gave half to has such an ability, he'll take that half and turn it into 20. But I give you 5 because you don't have his ability, and therefore I'm giving you a slight edge so that you will not be left behind. So many times we think, well, why has she got that? Why has he got that? Well, he did it because he knows your several abilities. Did we not just read that?
That's right.
So that's what it's speaking of. And that's why we must not get jealous when somebody has more than us, because we don't know what the Most High is doing so that we can grow to whatever it is that we need to get or have. Does that make sense to you so far?
Yes.
All right, let's go from there, if you please, to Proverbs chapter 3 and 13. Proverbs chapter 3 and 13. Go ahead.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 13. Happy is the man that findeth wisdom.
So notice here, when he gave all of the talents, remember he gave some wisdom, he gave some understanding, he gave some this, some that, so we all got something to aid us. Why many of us have failed is because the gift that is given to us, we sat on it because we didn't inquire by the Spirit as to what can this do for me. And that's why some of us are blessed with wisdom. Boy, she's really wise. He's really wise. I mean, you tell them something, they seem to kind of have it worked out. It's because they have exercised their gifts. So then when we read Proverbs 3 and 13, it says again, read.
Happy is the man that findeth wisdom.
So you must be happy when you have wisdom. Read on.
And the man that getteth understanding.
And if you get understanding, you should be happy about that too. Because you've got wisdom and you've also got understanding. Perfect things that's needed for you to become the man that you need to be, or the woman you need to be in this life. That's why the scripture says, if in this life only men would have hope, we'll be of all men most miserable. Because it's not this life that we're hoping for. But read on.
Verse 14. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver.
See, so it's better than silver and all of those things if you have wisdom and understanding. Because if you have wisdom and understanding, you can get silver, you can get gold. Read.
And the grain thereof than fine gold.
And you can work your way in order to get grain, in order to get fine gold. Read.
She is more precious than rubies.
And wisdom and understanding is more precious than rubies. Read on.
And all the things thou canst desire are not to be compared unto her.
Read.
Length of days is in her right hand.
So even in wisdom and understanding is length of days. So that you have length of days that you can prosper and live and be able to support oneself. Read.
And in her left hand riches and honor.
And riches on honor. Let's jump from there to Romans chapter 11 and 33, please. Romans chapter 11. Let us read verse 33.
The book of Romans, chapter 11 and verse 33. Oh, the depth of the riches both of the wisdom and knowledge of God.
Now, so you're seeing here, the scriptures is making it very clear to you that wisdom is a great thing to have. I remember when I was a little boy, my mother would teach me. She said, above all the things that you need to wish for in life, son, pray for wisdom. That was as a child. What we tell the kid for? A kid don't want wisdom. But wise mothers know what to say, give wise words to their children. Read it one more time, sir.
Romans chapter 11, verse 33. Oh, the depth of the riches both of the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh.
See, the wisdom, the depth of the riches of wisdom and knowledge. Read.
How unsearchable are his judgments.
What?
How unsearchable are his judgments.
Read.
And his ways past finding out.
So it's an unsearchable thing because you have something that's so great. Come on? Now let's go back. So let's go back to Luke chapter 15. Let's begin reading again from verse 13.
The book of Luke, chapter 15, verse 13. And not many days after, the young son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country.
Now, so you see the separation, and the separation here is from one brother to another brother. In the scriptures, those brothers are Ephraim and Judah. We're talking about the northern and the southern kingdom. And this is where we hear for the first time in Israel that we have what's called a civil war. Brothers and brothers fighting. And then when we read on, back in verse 13, read what it says.
And there wasted his substance with riotous living.
With what?
With riotous living.
Riotous living. Now, I think I need to also explain, it says, and not many days. So let's qualify that, if you please. Let's go to Numbers chapter 14, and Numbers 14 and 34. Numbers 14 and 34. Let's give some validity to that. Okay, go ahead and read.
The book of Numbers, chapter 14 and verse 34.
Read.
After the number of the days in which ye searched.
Go back and read that again slower.
Salaki. Numbers, chapter 14, verse 34. After the number of the days.
After the number of the days.
In which ye searched the land, even 40 days, each day of a year, shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years. And ye shall know my breach of promise.
So it's letting you know that a day is as a year. Did you see this?
Okay.
Do you see that? A day is as a year.
Okay.
So the 40 days that they were in the wilderness equated out to 40 years.
That's right.
And they spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness. Again, very important for you not to miss that. 40 days means 40 years.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to test you in a moment, and then you're going to be embarrassed. But I'm going to get tested with what I'm teaching you. Everybody understand that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You good? All right. Now let's put a little bit more paraffin on the fire. Let's go to Ezekiel Ezekiel 4 and 6. Ezekiel chapter 4 and 6. Ezekiel chapter 4 and 6. Let's read.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 4 and verse 6. And when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side.
Lie again on your right side. Read.
And thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah.
House of Judah. Read.
40 days.
40 days. Read.
I have appointed thee each day for a year.
So it's again confirming it. Each day is as a year. Each day is as a year. So we're going to discover that. Each day is as a year. That makes sense, everyone, so far?
Yes.
Good. All right. So with that in mind now, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 5. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 5. Let's read.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes.
There it is. So now we're seeing we've got days that could mean many years later. Because when we read the scripture, it said many days, then he went into a far country. So we know that even though his wealth was divided unto him, he didn't leave right away. It was many weeks, months, possibly even years before he left. But when he left, he left. But now what the Father gave to him was the law, statutes, and commandments. Now when we read this, read it now, sir. It says,
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments.
read.
Even as the Lord thy power commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it.
See that? So even the son, he's going off to another land, but he said to you, you must remember the laws, statutes, and commandments that I've given to you. And you have to hold them there. Why is that so important? Because if you don't keep the laws, statutes, and commandments, when you go to these different lands, the land will consume you. It will make you mess up. It will make you do wrong. It will make you sin. The question you must ask yourself is, how many of us couldn't survive if we went to another land, another country, and lived there, and got caught up in the whimsicalness of that country? Got that? So, let's go back to Proverbs, please. Hold on, did we read verse 6? No, we didn't. Read verse 6.
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 6. Keep therefore and do them.
Do what?
Keep therefore and do
So
them.
you've got to keep the laws and statutes and do it. Don't be a talker, do it. Read.
For this is your wisdom.
This is your wisdom and
your understanding.
And your understanding. This is how we know that you're going to maintain yourself and hold yourself together.
That's right.
Read.
In the sight of the nations,
Read.
which ye shall hear all these statutes, I say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
That's what they'll say about you when they see you uphold the laws, statutes, and commandments. Because you are upholding it and they say, you look different. What are those things you got around your thing there? Fringes. What's those? What's that? Why do you have a beard? None of us have beards. You see, these are the things that make the nations look at you.
That's right.
And then they want to follow after a fashion. You see the fashion now, especially in Europe, they've got fringes now on a lot of the items that they're now making. Oh, someone must have saw it and said, oh, that looks good. Let's put that next year's summer collection. And yet you've been wearing it all the time.
That's right.
And that's why it's ludicrous for you to turn around and not do the things that the law wants you to, the law Most High wants you to do, and yet people are imitating you. And you're so naive, you want to be like them, yet they want to be like you.
Yes, that's right.
And pardon the expression when I'm saying this. Our women are built in a different way. Guess what the world wants to go and do? Go to plastic surgeons and get certain implants in certain parts of their physique. And the reason why they're doing it, because they've been looking at you. Now, some of you are saying, well, I don't know why they're doing it. Well, wake up. They've been doing that going all the way back to the 18th century. Back in the 18th century, they had women who were wearing dress that had this like bolster at the back of their dress. Because they loved the way that a black woman didn't need one of those things. Hello, somebody.
That's right.
And they said, well, let's make them, because all our men seem to be looking at them. We want our men to look at us. We'll leave that alone. Let's Hallelujah. Okay, where were we? Let's go to Proverbs 21. Proverbs 21. The nations will follow us. We don't have to follow them. 21 and 20. Please, let's read.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 21, verse 20. Read. There is treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise.
There is what?
There is treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise.
First of all, let's read it again slowly, if you don't mind, because it's a big way.
Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20. There is treasure.
Underline the word treasures. Go on.
To be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise.
See, so the word oil is important. Why? Because oil is dealing with spiritual oil or spiritual wisdom. And what you'll find is that that's why the scripture speaks about the 10 virgins who have 5 had, 5 did not. Your oil is important, brothers and sisters, because the oil gives you wisdom.
That's right.
Now, when you have that oil, the beauty of that oil is this, that it puts you in a position to be, not to be bamboozled or to be easily taken in. Jump back to verse 17, please.
Proverbs chapter 21, verse 17. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man.
If you're going to love pleasure, you're going to be poor. And most people who love pleasure, when they get to their old age, they're broke. But read on.
He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich.
Shall not be rich. Because you have to be careful about what you're allowing yourself to become overly indulgent in. Con? Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 20 and 32. Ezekiel chapter 20 and 32.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20 and verse 32.
Read.
And that which cometh into your mind
Comes into your mind.
shall not be at all,
Read.
that ye say, we will be as the heathen.
See, that's how people always wanted to be like the heathens. We want to be like the heathens, the other nations. Read on.
Salaki. We will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone.
Serve wood and stone, and that's pursuant to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 36.
Right.
So you have to be mindful that your mind is not trying to make you become like the other nations. Because when you become like the other nations, you start to act, talk, and behave like them.
That's right.
Come on? And so it's important that that the only way that you lose on the substances that the Most High has given to you is when you start acting like the other nations. You lose your substance. Now, someone said, but I see some of these people, they seem to be gaining. No, that they are like the other nations. They've left their first estate. And your first estate was with your Father, which is in heaven. And you now brought yourself to a low degree because now you're acting like the nations and you're losing out on everything because the other nations don't have everything. Let's read on. What verse did you read before?
That was Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 32.
Verse 32. All right. Jump back to 31.
Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 31. For when ye offer your gifts, when ye make your sons to pass through the fire, ye pollute yourselves.
See? Because you're acting like the other nations. Read.
With all your idols, even unto this day, and shall I be inquired of by you, O house of Israel. As I live, saith the Lord, power, I will not be inquired of by you.
So he's now letting us know that this is how our brother went off. The northern kingdom went off severely. That happened around about 330 BC. The northern kingdom went off about 330 BC. The southern kingdom also, in fact, what did I say, 300?
Yes, sir.
30.
Right, 330, that was the southern kingdom. That was the southern kingdom. So 330 is the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was 931 BC. The northern kingdom was 931 BC. The southern kingdom was 330 BC. BC meaning before Common Era. Now, some of you are taught it means before Christ. It's before Common Era. All right? So, those are the two dates. Now, the reason why the dates are important because it lets you know that they both went on because the southern kingdom, they weren't pretty as well. They kind of got a little bit out of order. But they stayed righteous for a long time before they went off. That understood?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go back to Luke chapter 15. Let's pick some more out of this. Luke chapter 15. What verse were we on? Let's read verse 12 again, and then we'll go down. I need not many days. Oh, verse 13. Let's read verse 13.
Luke chapter 15, verse 13. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country.
To what?
Into a far country.
Read.
And there wasted his substance.
He wasted his substance. That means his oil. That which his father gave him, he lost it all. Read.
With riotous living.
With riotous living. Come on. Let's read on.
Verse 14. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine.
Now they arose what?
And when Salaki. And there arose a mighty famine in that land, and he began to be in want.
And he began to be in want. So now they became, a time of destitution came about. And now the son is a part of that destitution. Let's go, if you please, to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 23, and let's begin at verse 1. I touched on this the other day, but let's go there.
Ezekiel chapter 23 and verse 1. The word of the Most High came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother.
Go on.
And they committed whoredoms in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the
Go back and read it again.
Salaki. Ezekiel chapter 23 and verse 3. And they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the teats of their virginity.
Of their what?
Of their virginity.
Read on.
And the means of them were Aloah, the elder, and Alabiah, her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters.
And they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Read.
Thus were their names: Samaria is Aloah, and Jerusalem, Aloaban.
So now you can see the similarity, because it's showing you that the two daughters represents two places within Palestine. One is Samaria, the other is Jerusalem. Aloha represents Samaria. Alohabah represents Jerusalem. Now when we read on, it says Alohabah played the harlot when she was mine. I possessed her, but now she went off like a loose woman playing the harlot. Remember, it's speaking about two daughters, but their actions was representative of the of two cities, Ephraim and Jerusalem. Those two cities also are synonymous with the northern and southern kingdom. Are you seeing that? Now, I may not finish this today, because I think it's too much to kind of rush through. Would you agree, ladies and gentlemen? And I need you to understand this, so I'd rather make this a two-parter rather than kind of chase through and then you're lost at some point. But does that make sense to you? Are you beginning to see how the scriptures, with what we understood, is now becoming more alive in terms of the connectivity of past and present and future? Because then you begin to realize we've been down this road before. All right, let's read on now.
Verse 5, Salaki, Ezekiel chapter 22 and verse 5. And Aloha played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians, her neighbors.
So she doted on all her lovers. And now, just so that we understand what the word doted means lusted. Okay? But we have to make sure we understand the words that the scriptures is telling us, otherwise we have a miscomprehension of it. All right? So she lusted on her lovers. Read.
Verse 6.
No, finish, read. On her lovers as the Assyrians.
Her neighbors.
Her neighbors. Okay? Now, these names, you need to underline it or put an asterisk next to it, because it's going to tie in with something else in the future. Let's read, please.
Verse 6. Which were clothed with blue captains and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses.
Read.
Thus she committed her whoredoms with them, with all them that were the chosen men of Assyria, and with all on whom she doted. With all her idols she defiled herself.
Read.
Neither left she her whoredoms brought from Egypt, for in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised the breast of her virginity, and poured her whoredom upon her. Wherefore,
All right, we'll stop there. Let's stay in Ezekiel. Let's go to chapter 16 and 9. 16, chapter 16 and verse 9. We actually touched this on Wednesday, but go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 9. Then washed I thee with water, yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee.
Now remember what we understood that blood meant? What does blood mean, brothers?
Yeah, good.
All right.
Sorry, I was going to say brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say brother, but I didn't go on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, so death. All right. Read on.
And I anointed thee with oil.
With oil. All right. What does oil mean, Dusterous?
Or I mean,
Quick. All right, move on. What does it mean? What does it mean? Spiritual wisdom. All right. So it means spiritual wisdom. So read it again from the top, please.
Ezekiel chapter 16 verse 9. Then washed I thee with water, yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from
Blood
thee.
meaning he washed away death from us. Read on.
And I anointed thee with oil.
And he anointed us with what?
With oil.
With oil, which means spiritual wisdom. Because if you don't get it when you read the scriptures, you won't understand what you're reading. And you have to understand what you're reading. But we've all been in that situation. I know I have. And I was in the wilderness for a long time, starving to get understanding. But now when you have understanding, you can't go back to ignorancy. It just doesn't fit you. But read on, sir. Let's read.
Verse 10. I clothe thee also with embroidered work.
Because it's his people, it's his children. And what mother does not want their children to look spectacular? I mean, have you ever seen the way some mothers dress up some babies? Look like a doll. Because they put their pride into it. So how much more our Father, which is in Milleneumn, he wants us also to be decked out. But read on, sir, read.
And shod thee with badger skin.
Read.
And I girded thee about with fine linen.
Read.
And I covered thee with silk.
Read.
I decked thee also with ornaments. And I put bracelets upon thy hands.
Read.
And a chain on thy neck.
Read.
And I put a jewel on thy forehead, and earrings in thine ears.
Read.
And a beautiful crown upon thine head.
I remember back in the days when we used to read this and we were in my Bible study, we'd say to the pastor, this is God's people. Why is it? Because we weren't allowed to have earrings or jewelry or anything. My sister's there as a witness. I said, but you know, they're allowed here. But what's the deal? No. And when they don't know, there's some long no, but there's nothing accompanying. We were still left ignorant. Read on, Doctor.
Verse 13. Thus wast thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen.
Read on.
And silk, and embroidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour, and honey, and oil. And thou wast exceeding beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom.
Now, can you imagine what we're going to look like in the kingdom age? I mean, it's, and remember, he has said in his writings that even what's written cannot be compared with what we're going to be and see and do, because words cannot elate it. So why would you not want to jump, both legs into the truth and absorb yourself in this word?
That's right.
Why wouldn't you not want that? Question, go ahead.
Yes, and this in verse 12, and I put a jewel on thy forehead and earrings in thy ear. I'm asking that because you got men wearing earrings and
No. But it's, remember, it's all it's dealing with Israel from the feminine standpoint.
Oh, feminine, okay.
Because it's dealing with the beauty. We don't exalt a man in beauty, but we exalt a woman in beauty. And if a woman is exalted with all the fine linens and the perfumes and all of those things, it makes our mind go, yes, yes. And so we can begin to see as a nation what we will look like to the other nation. Beautiful, outstanding, alluring, which is what the other nations are not. All right, let's finish this off. Jump to verse 16 because of time.
Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 16. And of thy garments thou didst take, and decked thy high places with divers colors, and platest the harlot thereupon, and like things shall not come, neither shall it be so.
Shall it be so? Let's go back to Luke. Let's read Luke chapter 15.
Yes, sir.
Go on.
Luke chapter 15, verse 15.
There was a famine in the land. Let's read 14 again.
Verse 14. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land.
So destitution came, read.
And he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen.
Now remember, when you become destitute, the scriptures is letting you know that the only way out of any situation like that is that the Father has to step in. No one else will help you. So when you read the story, you'll notice that he couldn't get no help from no one. And so I look to the hills from whence cometh my help. My help comes from Yahweh. David lets you know your help comes from the Most High. It is him where you get your help, not from men. That's why you pray to him first. Let's read on.
Yes, sir. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country.
See? Now notice what he did. He didn't call in the name of the Lord. He didn't bend the knee and raise his head and his hands up to the heavens. But he went in his destitution and put himself with a citizen. You see how stiff-necked we are? And hard of hearing? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 13, please. Proverbs chapter 13 and 25. Let's read.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 13 and verse 25.
Read.
A righteous eateth to the satisfying of his soul, but the belly of the wicked shall want.
Read it again.
The righteous eateth to the satisfying of his soul.
So the righteous is always going to eat to the satisfying of the soul. The righteous eateth, ETH, continue to eat, to the satisfying of his soul, his mind. Read.
But the belly of the wicked shall want.
But the belly of the wicked shall want. In that day when we find ourselves having to go from city to city and you'll find yourself without certain protection of certain foods or whatever, and it may appear that you're on the brink of destitution, the scripture tells us that we must call on the name of Yahweh. We must call on his name in that day. And here is the other thing that the scripture says. I don't remember where it is right now, but there's a scripture that says he will not allow his servants to not eat. So that means that, another time I'll find that scripture, but it says that you will want for nothing. He will provide food for you. And that's why I know for some of us it may seem daunting. Well, that's going to happen. We're going to have to go through it. Yes, because how is he going to really know, although he knows your heart already, how is he going to really know the essence of you if he doesn't put you through the fire to see if you're going to call on his name or you're going to curse him? How is he going to know? So you have to go through something. The problem with Christianity is that it makes you feel like you don't have to go through anything, but everything is going to come to you. So you can do as you like and get everything as you like. Not so here. All right, so from here, still stay here. Let's go to verse 18. Same book, 18. So Proverbs chapter 13, jump to 18.
Yes, sir. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 18. Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction, but he that regardeth reproof shall be honored.
See? So you will become impoverished if you disregard instructions. You will become impoverished. But it said if you follow, read it one more time.
Yes, sir. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 18. Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction.
So if you're not going to take instruction, you're going to end up impoverished. But read.
But he that regardeth reproof shall be honored.
So you have to regard reproof. Don't get all bent out of shape because you're being reproved. Take it because it's making you better. When I look back over my life, I don't even remember the reproof with any pain. I remember it with a smile because if I didn't get the reproof, I wouldn't be who I am today. So you've got to take some stuff. All right, let's go to chapter 15 and 5, please. 15 and 5. No, same verse. 15 and verse 5.
Yes, sir.
Let's see what a fool does.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 15 and verse 5. A fool despiseth his father's instruction.
And they always despise their father's instructions because they feel like they know it all.
God.
A good son listens to their father. That's not my word. That's the book.
That's right.
And remember, we also have spiritual fathers that speak to us spiritually according to the word. It says, a fool despiseth his father's instruction, but
he that regardeth reproof is prudent.
and you notice the word reproof is continually there, letting you know that we have to be reproved. But take it like a man, you hear the world say. We're going to take it. Gone? All right, Psalms 23 and 1. Psalm 23 and 1.
The book of Psalms, chapter 23 and verse 1.
Read.
The Most High is my shepherd, I shall not want.
So if he's our shepherd, if the Most High is our shepherd, will we want for anything?
That's right.
No.
No. He says, you will have everything. All right, let me just pause here just for a moment. Any questions for anyone? Because I know this has been kind of boom, 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 boom. Yes.
When you talk about how when we're in the wilderness and to not follow on man, but to look to the Lord and provide, it just took me back to what they went through when they had to go through the wilderness.
Correct.
It's like the same thing is going to happen with us.
Correct. Correct. The same wilderness experience that they went through back in that day, or their day, the same wilderness experience will happen to us in that day, which will be our day. There's a time coming because he has to whittle out those who are mouth talkers and those who truly will uphold him in their spirit. Any other questions from anyone else? None? Okay. Because I didn't give the opportunity now. Okay. All right. Let's read Psalm 23 and 1 again, please.
Yes, sir. Psalms chapter 23 and verse 1. The Most High is my shepherd, I shall not want.
He is your shepherd, and because he's your shepherd, it's his job to make sure you want for nothing. And even in the most chaotic of situations, verse 2, watch what he does to chaotic situations.
He maketh me to lie down in green pastures.
See? So he will make something bad seem like green pastures to get you through. Finish it.
He leadeth me beside the still waters.
In other words, where there's life.
God.
Finish it.
He restoreth my soul.
And he keeps your mind together. You will not lose your mind. And in that day, many will lose their mind.
God.
They will faint. They will fall to the ground and beg to die because it's too much for them. What a terrible time that will be. Still staying in Psalms. Let's go to Psalms 34. and read begin at verse 9.
The book of Psalms, chapter 34 and verse 9. O fear the Most High, ye his saints, for there is no want to them that fear him.
See? So it's telling you there is no want. If you fear him, you won't want for anything. No want. Read on.
Verse 10. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger.
Young lions do, because they think they know what to do. That means sometimes those who are useful and not respecting the wisdom that also comes with age. Read.
But they that seek the Most High shall not want any good thing.
So if you seek him first, that's why the scripture says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these other things will be added unto you. See? So here David is saying that you will seek the Lord. Those that seek the Lord shall not want of any good thing. That's powerful right there. All right, let's go to Hosea chapter 5. Hosea chapter 5, and let's read verse 15. Hosea chapter 5 and 15. So go to verse, we go to all the time, so let's read it.
Hosea chapter 5 and verse 15. I will go and to return to my place till they acknowledge their offense.
So what this is now the father turned around and saying, I'm going to leave them where they are. I'm going to leave that knucklehead in that situation, and I'm going to my place, and I'm going to put my feet up and just relax, and I'm not going to move until I hear him cry. So here, the Most High is saying, I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their what? Offense. Read on.
And seek my face.
And do what?
And seek my face.
Read.
In their affliction.
In your affliction. You must cry unto the Most High God, even in your affliction. Read.
They will seek me early.
And you will come and find me early.
That's right.
You will. You will. Interesting, isn't it? All right. Let's still stay here. Let's go to chapter 2 and 3. Chapter 2 and 3.
Hosea chapter 2 and verse 3. Lest I strip her naked and set her as in the day that she was born.
So here, this is a throwback to what we just read in the book of Ezekiel. Remember what we read in the book of Ezekiel? Ezekiel chapter 16, 16 and 9. This is a throwback to that. So try to tie those in, make them precepts, because that you'll find it will tie in. Make Ezekiel tie into this and make this tie into Ezekiel, because they're complementing precepts. All right, continue.
Hosea chapter 2 and verse 3. Lest I stripped her naked and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness.
That's a wilderness. Read on.
And set her like a dry land.
Like a dry land. Meaning now when you're dry, you're thirsty. Read.
And slay her with thirst.
Slay her with thirst. Make sense? Now, what this is speaking about is the wilderness of the northern kingdom. So you want to make a note of that. It's speaking about the wilderness of the northern kingdom. They became thirsty. They became abandoned. The Most High was not hearkening unto them.
That's right.
Let's run back to Psalms 28 and 9. Psalms 28 and verse 9. Let's read.
The book of Psalms, chapter 28 and verse 9. Save thy people.
Do what?
Save thy people.
People need to be saved. Read.
And bless thine inheritance.
Because they are an inheritance. Read.
Feed them also, and lift them up forever.
So This is it's the edict that people want. To be saved, to be blessed, to have an inheritance, to be fed, and to be lifted up forever. That's what we want. What do we want? All right. That's what we want.
God.
All right, let's go back to Luke. Luke chapter 15, and let's read verse 14. Okay.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 15 and verse 14. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in that land.
Read.
And he began to be in want.
Read.
And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country.
So many of us, we've joined ourselves with the Assyrians, we've joined ourselves with the Egyptians, we've joined ourselves with the Babylonians, we've joined ourselves with the Greeks.
God.
Joined ourselves with the Romans. We just continue to join ourselves with the citizens of that country.
God.
Is that not the same here in the United States of America? Read.
And he sent him into his fields.
And notice, your enemy is not going to bring you into their house. Sent them into the fields. Because you're a field. You grow. Read.
To feed swine.
To feed the very thing that's abomination to you. You seen that?
Yeah.
Let's read.
God. Verse 16. And he.
Well, before we go, let's throw some precepts down on that, shall we? Let's go to Proverbs chapter. Let's go back. Yeah, but let's run there. Let's run there. Let's run there.
Songs in the spirit.
Yes. Yes.
66, 17. The book of Isaiah, chapter 66, verse 17.
Let's read.
It reads, They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh.
Eating what?
Eating swine's flesh.
Read.
And the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together.
Shall be what?
Shall be consumed together,
Read.
saith the Most High.
Read on.
Verse 18. For I know their works
Read.
and their thoughts.
Read.
It shall come that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my glory.
See my glory. All right, from there, let's go to Proverbs chapter 5 and 15. Proverbs 5 and 15.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 5 and verse
You
15.
need to underline and highlight this, ladies and gentlemen. Go on.
Drink waters out of thine own cistern,
Read.
and running waters out of thine own well.
Read.
Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee.
Not strangers with thee. See that? Let's read the next verse whilst we're out there.
Verse 18. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth.
Of thy youth. Now the word wife there, that really is synonymous with the word. With the word. Because we all have grown up with the scriptures, with the word. So it's the word becomes the wife of our youth. We grew up with it. That's what it's signifying there. Okay. All right. Make sense so far?
Yes.
All right. Jump from there. Let's go back and read verse 16 one more time.
Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 16. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets.
Right. Now when it's dispersed abroad, it means to teach. We teach, and that's why we take this gospel Now, this gospel that we take is the truth to our people. And you'll be surprised how many of our people still are fighting that this truth be for others as well. And it's not for others as well. Any questions so far? All right. Can I keep going?
Yes, sir.
Go on, preacher. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 2 and 25, please.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 25. Withhold thy foot from being ashod, and thy throat from thirst.
Read.
But thou saidest, there is no hope.
There is no hope. Read.
No, for I have loved strangers,
I have loved the other nations.
and after them will I go.
And that's what we keep running after. Did he know his people or did he know his people?
Yes, he knew us.
He knew you all. Father, have mercy on us. Let's read on. Let's read on. From here, let's go back to Hosea chapter 9 and 20. 9 and Hosea 9 and 17. 9 and 17.
The book of Hosea, chapter 9 and verse 17. My God will cast them away, because they did not hearken unto him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations.
Among the nations. Powerful words. Among the nations. All right, question, go ahead.
It's just, I was talking to someone from Milleneumn the other day, and I was saying, it's funny how you guys, you don't really marry in any other nationalities, do you? You don't marry outside.
Who is this now?
Elam.
Elam, okay,
He
good.
was like, well, he goes, you can if you want to, but he said, that's why when we come from our country and we come here, people laugh and joke about us, but that's why we gather together.
Correct.
Because we want to make sure, lest we fall into the ways of the people that we're living in.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why they've become a powerful force, because notice, right here in Sugarland, they've got 2 mosques, huge mosques, multi-million-dollar mosques. And again, they are also backed by the cities. Our people are not.
He said when he married his wife has to be okayed by the parents, and they want to make sure, because they want to make sure the teaching consistently goes through. And he said, you can go ahead and marry outside if you want, but you're going to lose the blessing, you're going to lose the covering of your parents, you're going to lose the finances, you're going to lose, and so that's why it's tight all the way along.
Correct.
And we say, it doesn't matter about if our mum and dad doesn't like the person, we're not marrying our family. We say all sort of foolishness that the other nations say.
Genesis chapter 3 and 7. Genesis chapter 3 and 7, let's read.
The book of...
Yeah, 7, yeah.
The book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 7.
Read.
And the eyes of them both were opened.
Read.
And they knew that they were naked.
They knew that they were naked. Read.
And they sewed fig leaves together.
So they took fig leaves, sewed them together. Read.
And made themselves aprons.
Made themselves aprons. Read.
And they heard the voice of the Most High thy power, walking in the garden in a cool of the day.
Read.
And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Most High thy power amongst the trees of the garden.
So they went and hid themselves among the other nations. They hid themselves among the other nations. And this is what our people do. They think that hiding themselves among the other nations makes them okay. And there you see the word garden. See? So let's just look at that. The word apron here, Job chapter 31 and 33, just real quick, just right there.
The book of Job, chapter 31, verse 33. If I covered my transgressions as Adam, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom.
See, so he was speaking about the type of, and he makes reference as Adam. Why? Because Adam used an apron. Now, what does an apron do? It only covers a certain part of the body. It does not cover the whole body.
That's right.
And therefore, you're still exposed.
That's right.
And if you're still exposed, you're still in sin. Make sense, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
Right. So that's what we have to be aware of. Read verse 8 again.
Genesis chapter 7 and verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Most High thy power, walking in the garden in the cool of the day.
Now, when we read that, this is not the lesson, however, but when we read that, just so everybody understands, it's not speaking about, when it said they heard the voice, it said that, and they heard the voice of the Lord walking in the garden. When it's used the expression, it's speaking about the men of God who came calling him. They came to inquire, what have you done? And so when they're calling him and saying, what have you done? They're speaking like as God would speak. And he feels guilt because he knows that he stepped from under the covenant. And even back then, the covenant was in verbal form, not in written form. It didn't become written until the times of Moses. Let's go to Psalms chapter 106. And verse 35, please.
The book of Psalms, chapter 106, verse 35. But were mingled among the heathen.
Read that again so that nobody misses it.
Psalms, chapter 106, verse 35. But were mingled among the heathen and learned their works.
See, so that's what happened to us. We mingled ourselves. We mingled ourselves. Psalm 106, 35. This is the northern kingdom and the Israelite foreigners of the southern kingdom joined themselves to the citizens of the city. Let's prove that. In 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 11. 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 11. Are you there? In the Apocrypha, let's read.
In the Apocrypha, page 114, 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
Wicked men out of Israel, read.
Who persuaded many.
Who did what?
Who persuaded many.
Read.
Saying, let us go and make a covenant.
And do what?
Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
With the who?
With the heathen.
Read.
That are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have much sorrow.
Read on.
So this device pleased them well.
Stop. So it pleased them. How much more wicked can our people be? It pleased them. Any questions?
I was late on that first Maccabees. What is that chapter, verse?
Page 114, 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11.
When you hear the scriptures, the first thing you do, write them down. Write them down so you don't have to ask again. Right, let's go. Let's go from here back to Luke chapter 15 and 15. Read.
The book of Luke, chapter 15, verse 15. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country.
Read.
And he sent him into his fields to feed swine.
To feed swine. Read.
And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat.
All right, so it said, and he would fain. What does that mean? Gladly. Have what? Filled his belly with the what?
With the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him.
No man gave unto him. Right. Any question? All right. We're going to stop there, and as we stop there, is there any question that we have online, and any question that we have presently? Go ahead.
A Jerry Swall asks, what is the difference between the tares and the wheat?
Tares and the wheat. That's a much bigger question, and it's not an easy question basically to answer just off, because the scripture says, let the wheat and the tares grow together until the day of harvest. And in it also says, don't try to pull the wheat, the tares out from the wheat. Why did he say that? Because for fear that you're going to uproot some of the wheat as well. So he said, don't do it. He said, leave them. He said, let everything grow together until the day of harvest. And the reason why he says that is because he's going to destroy all of the things that's been holding or choking the wheat. But again, that's a whole nother story, and I don't, not story, but lesson, and I don't really want to get into it because we will get drawn into it. But I have some teachings online that touches it, and maybe in the few weeks I'll actually do a whole teaching on it. So we'll make a note of that for something that we will do. So I promise you, sir, we will take care of that lesson for you. But I hope what I've just said is suffice at this moment. All right, any other questions from anyone? All right, no other questions online? Okay, now let me ask a couple of things. Now, Brother Wendell, tell me.
I listen on live every night.
All right. Brother Wendell, tell me, what is the oil?
Oil is spiritual wisdom.
Spiritual wisdom. Good. All right. Brother Dusters, tell me, what are the days referred to?
40 years. Okay, like one day would be like 1 year.
All right. So the days are referred to similar to like a year. All right. All right. Brother Johanna.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what does it mean by his portion? I was going to give that to Dusters, but I thought I wouldn't kill him with it.
His portion, when you remember the two sons and they gave him their portion?
Yeah, what does the portion mean?
He gave them the laws and the statutes
Good.
and the judgments.
Good. Well done. Good. All right. Now, I'm heavy on the brothers, but now, any other questions from the sisters? All right, let me just stop there. Now, for those of you online, I'm going to say to you that we're going to do part 2 of this on next week. I'm not going to rush it, but it's a heavy lesson, and I think it's too heavy to do in one sitting, because I think I've given you enough that you're going to sit back and go over it, and it's still going to be playing in your mind. So we're going to go over that as a part 2 on next Sabbath, should our life be spared and should the coming of the Lord be delayed.
Yes.
All right. So on behalf of the New Milleneumn City Church, Hebrew Academy, we say, Ba'ashem, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Salam.